Welcome to Del Beccaro and Hook. I am Steve Hook, and there's my buddy Tom Del Beccaro. It's another big week, and we are thrilled to have you join us today. After man, oh man, it's been 2 great weeks, hasn't it? I mean, it just has really been. I must say though, Tom, just between you and I, buddy, I am almost out of my Tupperware dish in the fridge is running short on Schadenfreude casserole, but I have been enjoying it. I have been enjoying it. and
Yeah, and it turns out elections do matter,
yeah,
and uh, to watch them, Chuck Schumer saying, "Oh, you should be bipartisan,"
yeah.
as if he ever was, or Adam Schiff saying, retribution is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Here's the biggest liar in politics. And now he's like, well, you shouldn't do anything. You should just play nice. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty ridiculous. And, the fact that they flipped overnight from, oh, he's Hitler to everything will be all right.
Yeah, it really is funny. And if you think they flipped before, let's talk about these cabinet picks because boy, President-elect Trump is he's not slowing down, and he's got some doozies for his cabinet picks. Some people think some of these picks are a little bit out there. I get that. I certainly understand it, but I think there is strategy involved in every one of them. So if you will pardon me, let's just go down it because, like I said, his cabinet picks have caused the Beltway in DC to go nuts. The media is going nuts. The unhinged social media TikTok world is going nuts. And perhaps it's not going to matter. Perhaps Trump is going to pretty much run the board with some of these picks. One or two in particular stand out. Matt Gaetz, RFK Jr., those are going to be tough. But let's go through them, Tom. Tom, I'm going to just rapid fire these, and then I'll come to you and see what you think. Okay, Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, that's no confirmation needed. She's in like Flynn. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, I think he sails through. I don't think you're going to get much opposition anywhere from there. Defense, Pete Hegseth. This is the one that initially caused the media meltdown. And they started saying, oh, he's just a Fox News anchor on the weekends and blah, blah, blah. Didn't give out the full backstory. Pete has got over 20 years in the military. He has two Bronze Stars, one with Valor, served in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Gitmo, graduated Harvard and Princeton. The guy is way more than the media wants to tell you. I think Hegseth gets in. Matt Gaetz as AG. Now, this is a big one because he's a fire starter. This is going to trigger everybody on both sides of the aisle. Lots of people in the Republican Party are still thinking this guy blew up Kevin McCarthy's speakership. There's some truth there. So he's got some enemies on the Republican side. Democrats can't stand him because they say this is going to do exactly what you just mentioned, Adam Schiff. We don't need retribution. Well, Matt Gaetz would most assuredly deliver retribution. Then Interior, Doug Burgum, solid guy, North Dakota governor, started out as a candidate, quickly joined Team Trump. I think he gets in without a problem. And here's another big one, HHS. RFK Jr. This one's big for a myriad of reasons, Tom. Mainly billions and billions and billions of dollars that lobbyists, funnel through the HHS by way of the FDA and whatnot. I don't know how it's going to go. It's a real gambit move by Trump here. It's a mandate-driven pick too. I mean, he's really big sticking it here with this guy. He might squeak by because a couple of Democrats may actually defect and vote for RFK Jr. We shall see, but that's going to be a fight. And that might be one of the picks that was specifically picked that Matt Gaetz may have been kind of a decoy to get RFK Jr. We'll talk about that in a minute. For VA, Doug Collins, great pick. Former congressman from Georgia. He's also an Air Force chaplain, pretty much liked. A lot of people on the left don't like him, but who cares what they like? So he'll get in. DHS, Kristi Noem. I think she's going to get confirmed after a little bit of light bitching from the media and the usual suspects on the left. Her backing Trump border policy was strong. She sent South Dakota National Guard to her border several times. So she's a good pick. And then the EPA, Lee Zeldin. This is a very important position. Coastal elites may not like it because there go their wind farms and everything else. but we'll see. I think Lee Zeldin gets in. That leaves 13 open picks. But Tom, here's the thing. You've got Matt Gaetz, and I know where I think I know where your opinion on Matt Gaetz is. I think it's, oh my God, what is he doing? But what if Matt Gaetz is just kind of a balloon? He's just floating it out there, because there's going to come a point, the mandate is real, and there's going to come a point where some of these Republicans, remember, we only need a majority here. I think, what is it? What's the threshold here, Tom? 47, 50? I don't know. To get confirmations, it's a minimum of the majority.
Well, no, they only need to get 50 plus, so
Yeah.
they have the votes.
Yeah, they'll have the votes for a lot of these, and some of them may bitch. And I think Matt Gaetz is going to be the sticking point. And while Matt Gaetz is being debated, Hegseth becomes defense secretary. RFK Jr. What do you think? I want to get your take on this.
Well, he, first of all, breakneck speed, no question about it. They're going to hit the ground running. There's going to be a lot of things in motion. I'm convinced he does want to tackle the bureaucracy. I said all along, a year ago, I said that he's a one-term president, so he's not worried about getting reelected. And if he does a lot of great things to reducing the bureaucracy and slashing it from, whether it's a $2 trillion savings or a $1 trillion savings or even 500 million, I'd be happy with them all. And I'm convinced he's going to do that. He did make some lightning rod picks. There's a lot of, great picks in there. And these cabinet people usually, sail through as we described, but you outlined three of them. So let's talk a little bit about it. I think I just want to, the Democrats, these people don't have the experience. I just want to remind them that the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors for Biden had a bachelor's degree in music and a master's in sociology. The chairman of the Economic Council, bachelor's degree in music, master's in sociology. There's that famed video of him can't even explain how debt works in the United States or the U.S. government, how it buys bonds and the like. So the left saying these people lack experience. Well, should we forget who he appointed for a nuclear commission and all of these things?
Bitten.
So a little ridiculous. But let's start with Bobby Kennedy. Look, big food and big pharma are not keeping America healthy. Period, full stop. The food industry, the additives and everything like that, the obesity in America, they're big on profits, but not big on health. And if he gets in there, Kennedy, he's going to upset that apple cart. Big pharma. They had a bigger say in the American economy over the last 5 years than anyone. Right? Think about it. They were all for the shutdown. They were all for these vaccines and the like. And now people are saying, well, maybe all that wasn't so right. So I think Kennedy gets in. I don't see what their grounds for saying no to him is.
Money.
So, okay, but I don't think that's enough.
Yeah.
So let's go to Pete Hegseth, which of course they're smearing, saying, this, that, and the other thing. And sorry, folks, for my cough here. They're saying all these things about him, whether he's got the experience or not. Again, and this isn't the only one. Javier Becerra, HHS. He's just a lawyer. Oh God. Jennifer Granholm, no experience in energy. Gina Raimondo in commerce. She had no trade background. She was the governor of Rhode Island, not California. Pete Buttigieg, he was known as Pothole Pete in his backyard. He was the mayor of a tiny town. His last election, he got 12,000 votes. They put him ahead of transportation and he told us how freeways are racist. So, it's not like they picked all these ultra experienced human beings. So Pete Hegseth, I don't know, he went to one of their famed colleges, Harvard. I thought they liked that place.
And Princeton.
And Princeton. He actually served in the military. So now you're going to have a guy who's the Department of Defense who's been on the battlefield. I think is that not good experience? Someone who's been on the battlefield? I'm sorry. I would want someone before they rush to war know what war is actually like, right?
Here, I agree.
So I think he gets in. The real story is Matt Gaetz. He has a lot of enemies. Ari Fleischer had this great tweet about, excuse me, folks, about that Elon and Vivek won't have anything to do because everybody's going to resign from the DOJ if Matt's actually coming in. And look, the DOJ is place one where the cleanup has to start, where the pink slips have to be come in baker's dozens, in my view. So a lot of people talking about a head fake, that he's not really going to do this. And until he resigned from Congress, I was like, all right, maybe that's a plausible theory. I will note that his family is well off, so he doesn't need this job. Maybe he runs for Florida senator if he isn't actually the pick now that Marco Rubio is giving up his senatorial position. But of course, that's an appointed position, so that doesn't seem plausible. I think this is more serious than people think.
I think so too, and I also think that it could be a little bit of both. Could be a bit of a head fake. Matt Gaetz is going to draw the ire, as you mentioned, from folks on both sides of the aisle. God knows Kevin McCarthy's acolytes and supporters have a lot of axes to grind against Matt Gaetz. But Matt Gaetz gives the clearance for people like Pete Hegseth. And by the way, just if we could circle back to that position right there, defense secretary, because here's the thing. I heard the media complaining about Pete Hegseth, Joy Reid doing her thing. And they said, are we really going to replace Lloyd Austin, a 3-star general, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that 3-star general oversaw the most embarrassing withdrawal from Afghanistan, probably the most embarrassing surrender in modern U.S. history for sure. And then a balloon flying over our country from China. And hello, the southern open border. How many state-sponsored terrorists have crossed? Nobody knows. I don't think Pete Hegseth would have allowed any of those things to happen. So I think he's in too. I just think that these are all bold choices. But with regards to Matt Gaetz, Matt Whitaker is sitting in the corner, Matt Whitaker can come right back in, and he'd be a great one. And you mentioned what's going on with Rubio leaving his Senate seat in Florida. Boy, howdy, don't you know Ron DeSantis is all of a sudden a kingmaker in the Republican Party. And he could very well just say, okay, here's the deal, Matt. You step aside from you're not going to get confirmed. I'm going to name you governor, and we're going to get Whitaker in there, and then we can go from there. And then in 4 years, the whole party shifts again, but we'll see.
Interesting. I rather think Pam Bondi's going to get it because
good call too. She's great.
A Trump loyalist as well. As if the people picked on the left aren't particular loyalists. Going back to Lloyd Austin, the analogy I'll use is some people may be very good as defensive or offensive coordinators on a football team, but that doesn't make them a good head coach. And Lloyd Austin's not good.
No.
The idea that he disappeared for a period of time, didn't tell people, is so beyond ludicrous that he should have resigned at that moment in time. He should have never been put in there. So, yeah, I agree with you that the record of the Biden picks for cabinet is nothing is indefensible. So, and by the way, what significant was done in their term? Anything?
Yeah. No. Well, the country went to hell. I guess that's something.
Yeah, well, but tell me, did anybody do anything different in the HHS other than make it bigger? Did the Department of Education, did school scores go up?
Yeah, good
Did
points.
the Secretary of the Treasury, did he lean on the Fed, or did he lean on the Congress to stop spending money that caused all this inflation? I don't remember any of this happening because it didn't. So it could be that everybody else sails in because the Democrats have one person on which to train their opposition,
Yeah.
and maybe that's it. But look, by and large, it's going to go through. The issue here, the biggest issue is getting spending under control, and I think Trump's putting people in there that'll keep an eye on that as well.
And bear in mind, Tom, we're going to wrap this segment, but bear in mind, we've also got 13 open spots left to fill in the cabinet. And some of those spots are very big, including Treasury, Commerce, Energy, and you just said it, education. That's going to be huge. I think that's going to be a temporary job because if Trump had his way, Department of Education goes the way of the dodo bird. So we'll see, but very, very interesting. Hey, you're watching and listening to Del Beccaro and Hook, and we remind you to follow us on Rumble and, of course, YouTube and all the other platforms, Patriot TV and everywhere else. We will be right back. A big, big show and a great guest coming up next.
Welcome back, everyone, to Del Beccaro and Hook, Enlightened Dissent. That's Steve Hook in the camera, but we're also joined by a very special guest today. She is perhaps the Judy Collins of California politics. She's seen it from both sides now. The Honorable Gloria Romero. She is a former state senator from 2001, I believe, to 2010, and she was the Democrat majority leader, Democrat, in the California State Senate, but things have changed in California and things have changed with her. And she has an interesting story to tell you today and also talk about what's going on in California, because as we all know, they talked about the California way prior to the election. It didn't quite work out for Kamala Harris. Gavin Newsom may pick up on that. She knows Gavin Newsom. But she also is considering politics as well, because in Republican Party politics, because in 2024, Gloria Romero became a proud Republican. Gloria, pleasure to see you again. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for the invite, and thank you to your listeners and your viewers as well.
So I don't know where to start. Should we talk about your background? Should we talk about how it is you came to what you're thinking now, or what's going on in California, or maybe we could do it all just at once? But why don't you tell people a little bit about your background and your differing thought processes, because you were at the pinnacle, really, weren't you the first ever woman to have that leadership position? So take it away.
All right, thank you. A lot of people talk about, it's not the destination, it's the journey. And actually, I think for myself and so many others across the country who literally walked away from the Democratic Party, I think my story is really not that much different. I have been almost a lifelong Democrat, but I am from a family, not a middle-class family with a nice lawn. I am from a working class family, but it was a bipartisan family. I mean, there are 6 kids in the family. Half of us were Republican, the other half Democrats. My father and mother were hardcore Depression era, Democrats. JFK, RFK were the icons in our household, a very strong Latino Catholic family. So I grew up with this, but over time, as siblings, grew up and had their own choices, As a Democrat, and I was always considered to be left of center in Sacramento, felt very comfortable around Republicans. I don't believe in the demonization of people based on their political beliefs. And I would put forth my family as Exhibit A in terms of can't we all just get along? Although we don't talk politics at Thanksgiving any longer. There was one day. So having said that, fast forward, I think important to understand about me was that I served once upon a time on the executive board of the Southern California ACLU board. And that was important to me because I very much believe in the Constitution. I believe in due process rights. I do believe in the integrity and the fairness of justice so that nobody's above the law, but nobody should be the target of the law. And I believed in due process. And where I began to really look at changing my party affiliation was when I saw just the intense, unconstitutional lawfare that was being hurled against then candidate Donald Trump. I began to write checks as a Democrat still to the Trump campaign, basically to say this was my way of saying, I don't agree with this. There's something called due process, fair rights. And so that was really one of the first actions. But before that, most folks in Sacramento know that I've been a reformer. Even being left of center in Sacramento when I left in 2010 would make me right wing today. So it's a very different identification. If you talk to most Republicans who served alongside me, they know I always worked across the aisle. I was known as a ferocious advocate for school choice. I am one of those Democrats, along with the Kennedys, if anybody would dare to look in the congressional record, who believes in vouchers, opportunity scholarships, because just like in my family, we knew that a good education is what would lift us out of poverty. And that's what it's done for me. So I'll stop there, let you continue. One more thing is in terms of the final decision to walk away completely from the Democratic Party, it was when there was the complete, the political coup that happened in front of everybody's eyes, 14 million Democratic votes, including mine, thrown out it was already rigged, the primary, but it was at least a primary that we were given and just invalidated so that there could be a backroom deal to appoint, the dedazo, we call it in Latin America, to appoint the leader of who the elites and the political powers that be wanted. That was too much. I said at that point, ya basta, enough. I had been thinking about it. I was frustrated about it. I had been speaking out about it, writing about it, and I finally said, walk away. This is not good for me. It's not good for America's. And I'm proud that so many others across America have done the same thing as I have.
Wow. Wow. Well, Gloria, hello. Welcome to the show. Very interesting story. And it is good to see you come up with a walk away thing. And by the way, you're welcome to the club. I mean, goodness gracious, school choice. I love it. You touched on the lawfare there, and I want to kind of circle to that because this is something that I think a lot of Democrats are probably now, a couple of weeks removed from the election, as the haze begins to clear, people are starting to say, well, gee, maybe we went about this wrong. You saw it very early. A lot of us did. It was obvious what they were doing to this man. It looks like Jack Smith is about to roll up his tent and tuck it in the rucksack and call it a day. Tish James is still out there chattering, saying she's going to do something. I don't think that's going to get very far. I'd say down at Fonnie Willis in Atlanta, that's all but done. What do you think about some of these? Now that you're part of the club, we might as well get your opinion on some of these cabinet picks. I mean, with regards to going forward concerning this lawfare specifically, Attorney General Matt Gaetz, how does that hit you?
Well, it's interesting. I've long only seen Matt Gaetz on television. However, I did have the honor. I'm just overjoyed. I did get to speak at Trumpchella in Coachella at one of his recent rallies right before the election, and the only one that he did in California. And in the back room, everybody gathers, you're waiting to go out onto the stage. I met Matt Gaetz. And so it was exciting to talk with him, to meet him, very friendly. We spoke about a number of issues. His wife is from California, so we spoke as well. I believe again too, it's the process. I do believe this is the president-elect's cabinet. Already the Democrats are saying there's going to be obstruction. But I do believe that given that it is a mandate, I think the American people sent a very clear message that we don't want the same old, same old. I mean, you want the blue wall crumbled. There is no more blue wall. Maybe it's a red wall, and maybe it's just an American wall now. The popular vote, the electoral college vote. So I think that it's an opportunity to not prejudge anybody. I'm hearing a lot about secret reports. We have dealt so much with all these so-called secret reports, all this smearing of people as fascists and Nazis, and I mean, the most horrific names, including even Supreme Court justices like Gorbachev going forward and basically being slandered over allegations that and I know would never even be allowed as evidence in a court of law. So I hope that there is a fair opportunity, and you know what, as we would say, by any means necessary, including if it becomes recess appointments to overcome the obstruction.
So sticking with the election, California had an interesting election. They talk about how counties voted for Trump, quote, "went red," and of course the crime issue was really big on the ballot during that election. So tell me, what's your assessment of where Californians are today? Because for a couple of years now, I said they're bottoming out on this crime, meaning their patience is being overtried, and the same with homelessness. What's your assessment?
I think very similar to what you have expressed as well. The one thing that I walk away with really is, California is called a blue state. And as I said at Coachella, Trumpchella, I said, look, we're not a blue state. We're not a red state. We are a golden state. And that's why I did join with Steve Hilton, who I know you've had on your show before as well, to basically cross the partisan divide, to really take a look at we as Californians, a major state in the union, what can we do to just speak frankly, truthfully, and sanely about inflation, about immigration, about education, about getting California back on track. So in looking at the results of the election, I think it really shocked the nation. But for anybody who's really been following this and looking at the growing numbers of the movement from the Democratic Party to independents, decline to states, and most recently into the Republican Party, we've seen that California should not be labeled as a blue state any longer. If anything, it very much has approached, you could even call it a purple in play. I still like to call it a golden state where we can be independent and talk about what needs to be done. But just like the rest of the nation, the economy was of paramount importance. Crime, homelessness, we've seen the complete demise, and I'm here in LA County, of homelessness and just the lack of affordability in housing. And the people that are being hurt the most are the working class, African American, Latinos. And this whole notion that they could just destroy the southern border to basically eradicate what even citizenship means in the hopes of believing that suddenly the Latinx people would join forces with the Democrats, that completely was failed. It should never have happened. Latinos, we want fair pathways. We want respect and treatment, but we believe in citizenship. I think if you take a look at the record of Latinos who have served in war and have come back in body bags, we're a very patriotic people. My father served World War II, and when he died, we had an American flag draping his coffin. So very much the issue of this is America. It's a land of opportunity. You cherish it, you fight for it when it's right, and you stand up for it at all times. And I think we saw that really arise in a hope of an America that will be, again, unburdened by what we've seen in the past.
How did you react, real quick? How did you react to the notion that, despite the fact that Trump made great gains in the polls vis-a-vis Biden with Latino men, how did you react to the claim that it was misogyny that Latinos decided that the pocketbook and the border and crime, my experience, and I did the first ever Latino town hall in American history on Univision with the Republican Party. My experience is that Latinos care about their family, their personal welfare, economics, and they want their children educated, and they want the streets to be safe, which, oh, by the way, is exactly what most every American wants. Am I wrong?
You're absolutely right. And the punditry that's coming down, it really shows the elitism. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and just say how Latinos have been treated like the peons, like basically, oh, we can't have Tom Holman as basically securing the border because who's going to pick the grapes for the wine that Nancy Pelosi will one day drink, or who's going to cut our grass? I mean, it is so patronizing. It is. I mean, talk about misogyny and racism. I think they need to look in the mirror. It is so demeaning. And I think for a long time, what I saw as a Democrat was again to this chauvinism and basically shoving aside the little brown ones to basically say, okay, we'll pull you out when we want you to come vote, and the rest of the time go away. We don't want to hear from you. The exciting thing is that Latinos stood up and said, we want an America that represents, what we believe, exactly what you said, faith, family, freedom. We're a very entrepreneurial community. We believe in hard work and pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps, fair pathways, etc., but good educational opportunities, not equity, but opportunities. And so I'm not surprised, but it's just amazing to listen to the meltdown of these Democratic leaders. And it really, I think, you know what? Let them talk. Give them the rope to hang themselves, because that's exactly why so many of us walked away from the Democratic Party. We just couldn't take the hypocrisy any longer. And I think it's going to get worse for them, better for us as we walk away and find a welcoming embrace into a big brand new GOP tent that welcomes us and what we believe without demonizing us.
Yeah, I want to, Gloria, I echo every one of those points. And the only reason I'm slightly miffed is that Tom just stole my question. But that's okay. That's okay. I'll come up with another one. It's almost as if these people have been living in an insular bubble. And by these people, I mean the Democrat apparatchiks, the media, Hollywood, the coastal elite, call them what you will. They've been living in this insular little bubble where only they live in. And of course, they're Latino servants and whatever. And they couldn't see what was going on in the world. But you take a look at like the state of Texas, the southwestern counties in Texas, for the first time since the 19th century, flipped to Republican. They are, in some cases, 85% Latino, and they went bright red. That should be a huge neon sign to the Democrat Party that maybe we ought to pop the bubble. And that's exactly what you've done. You escaped the bubble. You say you walked away. I know a few Democrats that flat out ran away, sprinted away, because they saw what was going on. Do you think the Democrats have had enough sand kicked in their face now to change? Is it going to be a slow change? Is it going to be a little bit quicker pace than people suspect? Because as you mentioned earlier, Trump got a mandate. That was a trifecta. And I mean, he's got huge coattails right now. What do you think the Democrats' MO is going to be going forward? Because God knows it has to change.
I'm a psychologist by training, by the way. And one of the first things should be self-reflection. Let me take a look at myself. Let me think about, what I've done and what needs to be. A reassessment of the pathway forward. But sadly, I don't think that's going to happen. Already we see, in the last few days, Gavin Newsom jumping up at taxpayer expense, putting forth a special session to Trump-proof California. and gallivanting off to Washington, D.C. His little crony, Rob Bonta, up and down the state. Then we find across the country, Eric Swalwell, the guy that's, I mean, again, I could say a whole lot about him, but it's out there.
Bang, bang.
It's just really, yeah, fang, fang. I think that what we're looking at is rather than looking to assess what happened, I think there's a lot of now just looking to see how do we explain ourselves? How do we justify ourselves? So the issue is going to be one where I would hope that there would be a change overall reflection, but everything so far is not. The city of LA, as we speak, hired a new police chief. And what was the first thing that he said? And again, too, I wonder if this was part of the deal for him to get appointed by our now mayor, Karen Bass, was that basically he is not going to comply with any ICE action in California. Well, let's just see when that happens. I mean, it's absolutely incredulous. As we speak, the LA City Council is now looking to push forward a resolution to codify that the City of Angels is not going to collaborate and work with federal ICE agents. And there's a part of me that thinks, look, when we take a look at what President Trump has said and what Tom Holman has said and articulated is that, yeah, you can't just eradicate a complete border. We have to have sense out of it. Otherwise, we don't have a nation. But especially when you're looking at predators who rape and kill and assault, and mostly women, by the way, I would add, we're going to say, oh, no, we're not going to help get these criminals out. It is madness. And I will submit to you that right now, no Latino is going to support that. It is madness. So it's going to take a while, I think, for reality to set in. I understand that Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she started by eliminating her pronouns on her X file. Good first step, but she has a long way to go.
Okay, in the few minutes we have left, and I do just want to highlight what you said. During my chairmanship a decade ago, or a little bit more, I think it was Latino women were #1 in the state in business startups. And now you have this recent action where they're going to raise gas prices, which adversely affects the poor always, but also business startups. And I think it will hurt the Latino community. What if you were an elected official in California, what would you emphasize as solutions going forward for the state?
Well, there are so many, and in a few minutes we have left, we probably don't have time to articulate everything. But certainly the recent action by, the cardboard. These are basically nobody elected, these faceless political appointees who probably most of them donated to the governor's campaigns to come out behind the scenes so the governor doesn't have to do it himself to begin to raise these gas prices that are going to contribute to energy costs. So again, to energy, taking a look at all of this, I think cutting and slashing regulation. We will need a DOGE for California. But I'll always go back to school choice. It really was the issue that I really advanced in Sacramento. That's what I'm known for the most part. I've continued fighting for school choice in all of its forms, complete school choice, because to me, it is the key, not only to the American dream, but really to economic prosperity. You cannot have a great economy and growing businesses if we don't have, students who can read and write and do math and think logically and critically without the complete indoctrination that has taken over our schools. So I think energy, taking a look at school choice are very important, and really cutting through that bureaucracy so that if an elected official like Gavin Newsom wants to basically, quote unquote, Trump-proof California, he should stand up and put his face where his little political appointee cronies are in the dark of night. We can't have that anymore. We need a DOGE for California.
Hear, hear.
I love it. And we need jobs. California from January of 2022 to June of 2024, only 5,400 private sector jobs, which is outrageous. We have to allow these people to have economic security and not just speeches about social justice. What did Reagan say? The best social program is a job. and we need to get back to that. We need to wrap it up. Gloria Romero, I want to thank you for joining us. Hopefully you'll come back if you do choose to run for office. I love the fact that you have a wider perspective. I made the Judy Collins comment at the beginning from both sides now. I think that's important because you understand both sides, and you're getting to this process, but I'm hopeful that California will elect people with actual solutions, not just slogans. So thanks so much for joining us, everybody. That's Gloria Romero. Look below, you'll see where you can follow her on social media. And we'll be right back with the close of Del Beccaro and Hook. Thanks so much, people.
All right, welcome back to Del Beccaro and Hook. Boy, Gloria was great. That was wonderful. And by the way, speaking of wonderful, my co-host here has got a wonderful book out, The Lessons of the American Civilization. Go buy it. You just saw an ad for it. Go get it. It's a very strong ad. And actually, we're living a lot of that book because much like The Divided Era, very prescient book. And Tom, I'm not just blowing smoke, man. I mean that. So good book and a perfect time to sit down and read it as you're celebrating with your third or fourth leftover dish of Schadenfreude. Listen, I want to talk about the liberal meltdown that we're seeing online and inside the Beltway and in the media bubbles and the coastal elite little Marxist enclaves. Want you to watch some of these. Our wonderful producer, I just sent her some. I said, just throw them at us. So without further ado, let's see what's happening to our friends on the left. Annie, go.
Oh, I've been waiting for this. Oh, boy, I've been waiting for this.
I'm sorry. No! Why? Why? Do you really hate me that bad?
Guys, we literally don't even have to panic. We literally don't have to freak out right now. We don't even have to we don't have to freak out. We don't have to freak out because it's not even real.
It's not even real. I mean, that's where they are. Once upon a time, we used to call it willful blindness. Now it's just willful stupidity and willful avoidance of reality. Most of those were young folks, but pretty funny. They're pretty
not much better on national.
On the media.
I mean, the most amazing thing to me was on The View, where the woman was talking about Latinos on the border and how the border affected them, and then the white woman at the end saying that it was just misogyny.
Yeah.
As if she'd ever been to the border and had any idea, and telling the Latino that you have no idea what you're talking about. Talk about coastal elites. I know we have a clip from the most interesting person in the U.S. Senate, apparently.
Let me say this about Fetterman, because John Fetterman is no doubt, he's dyed-in-the-wool, left of center guy. When he first came in, he had real problems with that stroke, but as he's gotten better and as he's recovered from this stroke, all of a sudden he's starting to say things that make perfect sense. Check this one out from Fetterman.
I mean, I would describe it as God tier level trolling to just trigger a full-on China syndrome to own the libs in perpetuity.
Well, so you know what I thought was the most interesting part of that was he said the libs, as if they were a group over there and not him.
Yeah, and he's but he is a lib. There's no doubt about it. But I think that I think Fetterman sees the writing on the wall, and he can see the train coming down the tracks, and some others, as we just spoke with Gloria, are just head in the sand about it. But and
Well,
Tom,
and he's got to get reelected in Pennsylvania.
damn right, and that ain't going to be an easy task now. So he's gonna be walking a high wire for at least 4 years, but at least he sees it. Tom, you had a great piece on FoxNews.com. And I mean, it really was well written. So again, God, I'm blowing you at the beginning of this thing. I'm blowing smoke, and now I'm doing it again towards the end of this thing. But it was a great piece.
People can get it at politicalvanguard.com as well. But look, here's the reality of the last election, because the Democrats are undergoing this incredible autopsy. And the body's still alive, by the way. So there's your dramatic visual. But they seem to be forgetting something. And it's very important. They were the party of "it's the economy, stupid." Remember that, Steve?
Oh, yeah.
And they seem to have forgotten that. But here's the staggering statistic from the last election. And it was published at the start of the year that after all that inflation, 49% of Americans had $500 in savings. 500. So when they look at this, that's an easy explanation of what happened about an election about economics. But why they can, and it's called the three mountains the Democrats face in any comeback. Why they can't get over this is what we were talking in significant part, what we were talking about with The View, which is they are a government first party, and they believe that government can do such great things. I mentioned the Committee to Unleash Prosperity. They did some polling. The polling showed that it's almost 90% of the ultra elite believe that government does great things all the time. Almost, that's their view. They think we have too much freedom. It's amazing. And so the problem for the Democrats is that the elites in government, the elites populate the government and populate the Democrat Party hierarchy. And so they have such pro-government views, and they are so condescending. I just don't see how it is that they're going to make this turnaround. People vote economic security over social justice, and the Democrats are only the government by social justice by government party.
And not only that, but they are the party that believes that a larger government is a more benevolent government, with the only caveat being that they must control every aspect of it. And the thing, Tom, that's really interesting to see, and I've always said this: if you want to be demure, self-cancel. We are seeing self-cancellations left and right. Joy Reid has left Twitter, made a big announcement. I'm leaving. Who gives a rip? Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Then Don Lemon, he decides he's going to bag out. These people are self-canceling, Tom, and then wondering why their party is shrinking. Their island and their bubbles are getting smaller.
Yeah, it is self-counseling, because they get this. They sit there and they say things like that Twitter has become this terrible place. Well, okay, I'm on Twitter. I see Democrat tweets. Okay, I don't agree with them. I ignore them, right? I have that choice. I haven't really seen the horrible things that they are talking about, but the fact is what Thomas Sowell said, that when preference is taken away from you, you feel abused, or words to that effect. And so they had all the preferences, and they don't like the fact that they don't have the preferences now. And so they're whining and going home, because they can't actually have a debate. They'll just tell you you're misogynist versus worried about the fact that you only have 500 in savings and that there's crime all around your neighborhood.
It is a little bit rich to hear these people say, oh, it's become such a toxic place, X has, blah, 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 while campuses are being stormed and vandalized by anti-Semitic Nazi mobs. I just can't take them seriously anymore. And judging by this election, the country doesn't take them seriously anymore. So even though they may not wake up as a party, the country's leaving them behind, whether they like it or not.
Yeah, and that's, again, going back to my Fox piece, which is on politicalvanguard.com. They are so government-centric. They're not, the elites do not even understand, a lot of them, the private sector and what Gloria was talking about, the entrepreneurial spirit of the Latino community. They don't even care about that. They don't know about it. I call it the butter bubble. When Joe Scarborough had no idea butter was $7 a pound. Okay,
Yep.
What does that mean? You haven't been to the grocery store. You don't cook. You don't. Yet you pontificate all the time about what people's priorities should be.
Tom, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I want to ask you something just real quick on that subject. Remember when George W. Bush, maybe H.W. Bush, went to the grocery store and the media gave him hell because he couldn't understand the scanner? And they're like, look at this guy. He's so out of touch. Now Joe Scarborough gets called out by his own wife on his own morning show, and they just ignore it. It's like, what? Is it wrapped in gold? The butter bubble.
Absolutely. And then the next day he came back talking about maybe it was the economy kind of thing. So anyway, folks, politicalvanguard.com, the link's right up there. Also at tomdell.com. This is Del Beccaro and Hook, the odd couple a little bit here. I'm Tony Randall. You're Jack Klugman. We have a great time on the show, but it'll be much better. You can catch us now in all these places, Patriot TV, and of course YouTube and Rumble. All these places where we're growing. We appreciate you being here, but we need you to, just text the link. Yeah, text the link to your friend. So we'll be back next week talking about the rest of the cabinet picks, any more meltdowns, but how it seems like in less than 2 weeks, more action's underway than the last 4 years. So we appreciate you coming on, and we'll see you next week.
Take care.